Craig, what would you feel are the most important character attributes of a high performer?
This is an interesting question, Heath, and I've had some time to think about this, and it's actually changed now that I've become a father, believe it or not. So, in my sporting days, and my number one focus was purely just sport and being as athletic as possible. Now that I've had a little girl and I've retired from sport, those characteristics are changing a little bit. But I want to take you back to my sporting days and when I was at my peak of my career with football in the AFL in Australia. I think the most important thing that an attribute from my point of view was courage. And certainly when you were obviously growing up and a little boy and you're sort of starting to get into the Australian League in AFL, certainly courage plays a huge part in relation to that. You're a young boy, you're scared, you're timid, you're going up against these men in that football when you first come in. So courage was certainly something that I had to, hold within myself and make sure that I was obviously leading the way, even though I was obviously only 16 at the time. So that was the most important thing. Courage was big. You probably see on the back of the screen there, determination. There's a big photo that I keep in my office at all times that actually states, determination today leads to success tomorrow. And I'm a big believer of that. So the most important thing that my dad instilled in me as a child was determination. And I mean, he had a lot of determination. He was an Ironman, which he did passionately. And you do need a lot of determination from that. So I learned that trait from my father. And determination is certainly another trait that I would hold in high regard to be a high performance athlete. And the next one is persistence, because I think, growing up as a kid, you're always going to be challenged. There's going to be hurdles in place, and especially through your AFL career, you talk about injuries, and, the amount of injuries I had was huge throughout my career. But, the persistence and the resilience, to continue to get back up, keep training, get your body to the stage where it can perform on a weekly basis, week in, week out. So, I would say persistence would be my third one, and they would be certainly my top three of a high-performance athlete.
Wow, that's so clear and concise. That's one thing I always love about you, Craig. Focused. What do you think, Bob?
Craig, excellent. You had courage and persistence. And what was the third thing? Courage, persistence, and determination. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. That, just for our listeners, Heath, there's a huge amount of research done on character skills and virtues. And I know that there's a list of about 40 to 50 different character skills and an equal number of virtues as well. So a little less than 100 character skills and virtues that people should know about. So if you're looking at self-leadership or becoming good at anything, the three that were just mentioned by Craig are top of the list if you want to be a high performer in any way, shape, or form. So studying character and studying virtues is a really good way to get a grasp on actually your current reality. So that's what I'd like to contribute talking about performances. Character is very important, virtue is very important, but I think there's an old adage that says it's your dreams and goals plus action equals success, or perhaps performance in this case. But I think often we miss out that the picture of reality. So in my head, it's dreams plus reality plus action equals success. And so to move forward from any position, if let's say you wanted to move forward in your financial life, or move forward with your spouse, or move forward with your 1-year-old turning it quickly into a 2-year-old, right, Craig? It's like you have dreams and goals, right? But then there's the reality of the situation that you're in, then taking some actual pragmatic action that goes along with that's going to equal your success. So my kids, which are just about the same age as yours, Craig, I think they're 35, 34, because of excellent planning, 21. I do that exact same thing certainly on a weekly basis. If I want to have a maximum performance with my children, and I think out, geez, what are some goals and objectives? What are some dreams that I have with them? What's the current reality of our relationships? What action can I take intentionally? And thus the performance of that relationship moves forward.
Yeah, well said, Bob. Well said. You know, a statement that I've always used, Bob, and you've heard me, which goes right along the lines with the three aspects that you just spoke to, is that your reality equals your dreams acted upon. And I totally believe that statement. The thing that I would add to the three that you spoke to, Craig, which I believe all three of those are critical key success factors, is on top of determination is self-discipline. And I think in a lot of our journey, when I look at the times when I stumbled, let's just say, from where I was going, it's when I allowed my self-discipline to waver. You can be determined on the goal, but when that determination falters in a slump or during a trial or unfortunate circumstances, it's that self-discipline that will get us through our slumps quicker or not. They become prolonged when we're undisciplined. And that's the only thing that I would add to it. I think that, for all of the people that I've had the fortune to meet that are high performers, those traits that we've all just discussed are really it. And it really comes back to being really clear on their focus, that goal. So Craig, speak to us just a little bit on that focus you had for your lifelong goal to be awarded such an honor as being best on the ground at a professional level. That's not a small thing to get.
Yeah, thanks. Look, I mean, you know how long the seasons go, and to be able to actually get to a grand final, let alone be best on ground. I mean, I'd take the grand final, the Premiership Cup, any day of the week over best on ground. But it's a great accolade to go with that. But the focus wasn't just that one game. It was the whole year. It was the build up. It was the work that you put in, the effort, the sacrifice, the blood, sweat, and tears to get me to that stage that I was able to perform on the day at that level. But certainly, that focus, that determination and dedication, was seen, back in November, 1 year ago when we started pre-season for that particular year. So, and I do like what you were talking about, Heath, in relation to, I guess, the self-discipline and also self-reflection is really important, because everyone's going to make mistakes, and you're all going to be kicked down at some point in time. It's what you do at that point in time as to, I guess, where your career or what the next avenue is you're going to take.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's a really good point. I think one of the things that we forget about a lot of the time, there's quite a different dynamic when we're working in a team versus working individually. As we all are entrepreneurs and we're all business owners, we have to learn that. I know when I started out in business, I was so focused on my goals that I quite often would overpower other people around me instead of asking the question of what they thought or what they felt would be the right contribution to a circumstance. And that's why there's no I in team. And I would say I lost some really good people and some lessons that I had to learn the hard way, where if I was willing to just ask some questions and have that moment to self-reflect, as you just said, on something, that I could gain the synergy of two people or three people or the group's collective energy and knowledge, and a host of common people could do uncommon things. And that, I think, is that's the big thing that you just really spoke about. Why the Premiership Cup is actually more important than the individual, because if you're not in the game, for the premiership with your teammates, you don't get the chance to win that individual accolade. It really
Correct.
is we before me.
Yeah, I totally agree, Heath. And as I said, for me to win that best on ground, it didn't just take me; it took a team. There's people out there making me look good, of course. And you've got to have, surround yourself with great players, and that's what and essentially our team was that. We're one cohesive group, and essentially my teammates just made me look good on the day.
Well said. Bob, what do you think? I'm going to add a little question here into this because it's part of this question, but aren't we really sort of talking about servant leadership in essence, in this whole aspect of being a high performer? It's really about leadership, whether it's on the field, in the office, in our family. It's focusing on an objective, but trying to bring people in to that outcome, that they feel part of that their dream is being achieved through it, and that we can serve them in that outcome. What do you think?
Really good comments, gentlemen. Excellent comments. We'll be using the analogy of sports, but Heath, you nailed it right there by talking about it's in every aspect of our lives. If we want to win in every aspect of our lives, in finances, in our families, in our relationships with our spouse, with our children, with so many of with our friends, our friendships as well, it is about servant leadership. It is about not only you maximizing your performance, but you helping others to maximize their performance. And that's a real key to success in life, is knowing, first, putting people around you that have that same like mindset, and second, really articulating, being able to reflect on what your skills are and reflect on what the skills of the people who you're working with or living with around you, and then helping everybody move to that next level, helping everybody perform at their best. So that's not only how you win championships, that's how you build a family. That's how you build a business.